Look at the charts. Go ahead. Pull them up. Gold, silver. Look at what they've been doing lately. Now, look away from the charts. Look at the headlines. Look at the news feed. The noise. Everyone has an opinion right now. The economists tell you one thing. The politicians tell you another. Your feed is full of people screaming about what should happen. Opinions are loud. But gold is quiet. It just moves. And lately it's been moving up. Relentlessly. Why? If you listen to the mainstream financial news, they'll give you the standard reasons. They'll talk about interest rates. Or maybe a slight uptick in inflation fears. They treat it like just another ticker symbol. Just another stock to trade. But deep down, I think you know that's not the whole story. Not this time. Something feels different. Because gold isn't just another asset class. It never has been. Gold is a barometer. It is a millennia-old alarm system that triggers when human beings start to get nervous about the structures they rebuilt. See, what we're watching right now isn't a debate. It isn't an opinion piece. It's behavior, pure, unfiltered human behavior on a global scale. It's capital, vast amounts of capital, looking for a place to hide. People often say that when gold rises, it means the world is about to collapse. That's too simple. It's too dramatic. And honestly, it misses the point. History shows us something much more nuanced, and perhaps much more important. Gold doesn't predict the end of the world. It predicts a transition. It tells us that the current chapter of history is ending, and the page is about to turn. And right now, the page is turning fast. Segment 2. The nature of trust. To understand why this is happening, we have to strip everything back. Forget the complex derivatives. Forget the crypto exchanges for a second. Forget the stock market casinos. What is money? At its core, modern money, the dollars, euros, or yen in your bank account, is trust. That's it. It's just trust. It's a promise. A piece of paper currency is a liability of a central bank. A bond is a promise from a government to pay you back later. A stock is a claim on a company's future earnings. Everything in our financial system is a claim on someone else. It's a chain of promises. In finance, we call this counterparty risk. The risk that the guy on the other side of the deal won't show up. When times are good, when things are stable and peace is the norm, we trust the counterparty. We trust the system. We buy the promises. We buy the paper. Why wouldn't we? It's efficient. It works. But what happens when that trust starts to erode? Think about it. When you start to doubt that the government can pay its debts without devaluing the currency, when you start to worry that the banks might not be as solvent as they claim, when you fear that the geopolitical order is fracturing, where do you go? You go to the assets that have no counterparty. You go to the things that just are. Gold doesn't rely on a CEO making good decisions. Silver doesn't need a central banker to print more of it to stay solvent. They are nobody's liability. They are just physical reality. And when reality gets complicated, people dump the promises and buy reality. That's the behavior we're seeing. It's a flight from counterparty risk on a massive scale. Segment 3. The mathematical trap. But here is the scary part. It's not just about feelings or trust. It's about math. If you look at the government's own numbers, we have entered a phase that economists call fiscal dominance. It sounds technical, but it's actually terrifyingly simple. It means the government has borrowed so much money that the interest payments alone are consuming the entire budget. Imagine a household that earns $5,000 a month, but the interest on their credit card bill is $6,000. What are their options? They can't cut spending enough to fix it. They can't tax enough to fix it. They have only one option left: print the money to pay the bill. The gold market, which is arguably the smartest market in the world, has done this math. It sees the debt. It sees the interest payments spiraling vertically, and it knows the outcome. The government must print. They have no choice. When you see gold rising, you aren't seeing speculation. You are seeing the market pricing in the inevitable future dilution of your currency. Gold is simply front-running the printing press. This isn't new. None of this is new. If you have a sense of history, the headlines today feel eerily familiar. It's like watching a rerun of a movie you saw years ago. Think about the late Roman Empire. We always picture the barbarians at the gate as the cause of the collapse, but the rot had started centuries earlier from within. To pay for massive armies and a bloated bureaucracy, the Roman emperors started debasing their currency, the silver denarius. They started mixing in cheaper base metals, copper, bronze. At first, nobody noticed. The coins looked the same. But eventually, the people caught on. The merchants realized the coins were worthless. Prices skyrocketed. Trust in the state evaporated. And what did the citizens do? Did they hold on to the debased coins, hoping things would get better? No. They hoarded real silver and gold. They transacted in the real thing and dumped the fake thing on the government. Gold didn't cause Rome to fall. It just reflected the reality that the system was already broken. It was the thermometer, not the fever. We see this pattern over and over again. Whenever society takes on too much debt, fights too many wars, or promises more than it can deliver, it inevitably tries to cheat reality by debasing the currency. And every single time, human behavior kicks in. Capital tries to escape the debasement and hide in the metals. It's almost like a financial law of physics. Segment 5. The 20th century resets. We don't even have to go back to Rome. We can just look at the last 100 years. The 20th century was defined by two massive monetary resets. Two times when the rules of the global game were completely rewritten. The 1930s, the Great Depression. The system broke. Banks failed. Trust hit zero. And what did governments do? They rewrote the rules. They devalued currencies against gold. In the US, they even made it illegal for private citizens to own gold for a time via Executive Order 6102. Why? Because everyone wanted it. The demand for safety was so high, the government had to ban it just to maintain control of the system. Yes, you heard that right. They had to ban safety to save the risky system. Then came the 1970s, the end of the Bretton Woods Agreement. For decades, the US dollar promised it could be exchanged for gold by foreign governments. It was the anchor of the post-Wei-Tun world. But America spent too much. War in Vietnam, domestic social programs, the guns and butter policy. The French, among others, called our bluff. They showed up with dollars and asked for the gold. We didn't have enough, so in 1971, Nixon closed the gold window. He broke the promise. He defaulted on the gold obligation. What happened next? A decade of inflation, turmoil, a complete restructuring of how the global economy worked. And gold? It went vertical, from $35 an ounce to over $800 in less than a decade. Again, gold didn't cause the crisis. It just signaled that the old rules were dead and the new rules hadn't been written yet. It was the bridge between two different world orders, and that's exactly where we find ourselves today, on a bridge. Segment 6. The modern trigger. So why now? Why is it moving now? We have debt, sure. We have inflation, yes. But there was a specific moment recently where the vibe shifted, a moment where the rules changed again. The sanctions on Russia in 2022. Now put politics aside for a moment. Forget who is right and who is wrong in that conflict. Just look at the financial mechanics. The Western powers froze hundreds of billions of dollars of Russia's foreign reserves. Money that was sitting in Western central banks. In an instant, that money became inaccessible to its owner because of a political disagreement. The message that's sent to the rest of the world, to China, to India, to the Middle East, the so-called Global South, was chilling. The message was, your dollars are safe as long as you don't do anything we strongly disagree with. The dollar, which was supposed to be a neutral reserve asset, was weaponized. If you are a foreign central bank, and you realize that your savings can be turned off like a light switch, what do? You diversify, fast. You buy the only asset that has no political allegiance, the only asset that can't be frozen by a swift code. You buy gold, and that is exactly what has been happening. Central banks have been buying gold at the fastest pace in modern history. They aren't speculating on price. They are securing their sovereignty. They are behaviorally signaling that they no longer fully trust the dollar-based system. That is a tectonic shift. Segment 7. The silver signal. And we cannot ignore silver. If gold is the quiet, serious diplomat in the room, silver is the loud, energetic cousin. Silver is fascinating because it lives in two worlds. Half of its demand is industrial. It's in solar panels, electronics, batteries. It's the metal of the future economy. The other half is monetary. It's the poor man's gold. Historically, when the average person starts to lose faith in the currency, gold is often too expensive per ounce, so they rush into silver. This dual nature makes silver incredibly volatile. It gets hit when the economy slows down because industrial demand drops, but it soars when monetary panic sets in. When you see both rising together, gold leading the way as the central bankers buy, and silver following behind as the public wakes up, that's a very powerful signal. It means the fear is spreading from the institutions down to the streets. Watch the relationship between the two. When silver starts to outperform gold, that's usually when the transition is entering its most intense phase. Segment 8. The Great Repricing. By now you might be feeling a bit heavy. It's a lot to process. If you're finding this valuable, just take a second to like the video. It really helps these ideas get out there. Now, here is the most important mental shift you need to make. When you see the price of gold going up, try not to think of it as gold getting more valuable. An ounce of gold today is the exact same thing it was to a Roman centurion 2,000 years ago. It's the same group of atoms. It does the same amount of work. It hasn't changed. What has changed is the paper we use to measure it. Think of it like this. Imagine you are measuring a room with a ruler, but every year the ruler shrinks by a tiny amount. After 10 years you measure the room again. The numbers on the ruler say the room is much bigger now. Did the room actually grow? Of course not. The ruler shrank. Our currency is the shrinking ruler. We call it inflation, but a better term is repricing. The world is repricing everything in terms of dollars that are worth less and less, because there are so many more of them. Gold is just the most sensitive ruler we have. It's the constant. When gold rises, it's just the reflection of your money's purchasing power dissolving. Segment 9. The digital fence. But there is one final piece to this puzzle, and it might be the most critical one. We are standing at a fork in the road. Down one path we have gold. It is private. It is anonymous. It is physical. It requires no electricity and no permission to use. It represents freedom. Down the other path, we have the new system the central banks are building right now. CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. Unlike cash, which is private, a CBDC is programmable money. It allows the issuer to see every transaction, to track every purchase, and potentially, to control how you spend it. Imagine money that can expire if you don't spend it fast enough, or money that can't be used to buy certain things. This isn't sci-fi. It's being piloted in countries around the world right now. This is the digital fence, and this is why gold is becoming so attractive to so many people. Gold is the only asset that exists outside of the digital fence. It is the only wealth that cannot be deleted, frozen, or programmed. When you see people buying gold today, they aren't just hedging against inflation. They are buying an insurance policy against control. They are voting with their wallets for a system where they still own their own labor. Segment 10. Transition, not just collapse. So where does this leave us? If you watch most videos on this topic, they end with fire and brimstone. They want you to panic. Panicked people click on things, but panic isn't useful. And honestly, the history isn't just about collapse. Rome fell, yes, but the world kept turning. The 1930s were brutal, but they ended and a new system was built. The 1970s were chaotic, but we emerged into a new era. The point of watching gold isn't to prepare for the apocalypse. It's to recognize that the current structure, the post-Wabihut, dollar-dominated, high-debt system, is reaching its natural end date. It's exhausted. The gold price is simply the exit door lighting up in a dark theater. The smart money sees the sign and is quietly moving toward the exit before the rush. Not because the theater is definitely going to burn down, but because they smell smoke, and they'd rather watch the rest of the show from outside. This is about transition. Transitions are messy. They are volatile. They confuse the so-called experts whose models are based on the old world. Wealth is rarely destroyed during these transitions, but it is transferred. It transfers from those who hold onto the paper promises of the old system to those who hold the real assets of the new one. Gold and silver aren't opinions. They are the behavior of people who understand that transfer is underway. The only question left is, are you paying attention to the noise, or are you watching the behavior?